certainly I was a bit taken aback to suddenly become portrayed as this controversialist, because in the UN, in all the positions I held over 29 years, I was a guy who was frequently wheeled out by the organization as the face to the outside world. I think it was the first UN official to appear twice on BBC's Hard Talk. I was a regular on Fox News, which was the sort of the Times Now of America, as it were, that was sort of shouting and screaming at the UN. I was the fellow who was put up precisely because it was assumed that I would always say the right thing and never put a foot wrong. And for 29 years, that was the reputation I had, to the extent that even the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Mohammad al-Baradei, when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, sought my advice on how to handle the public messaging of the organization at that time. So this was the kind of reputation I had. Then I come here, and I'm somehow portrayed as this fellow who puts his foot in his mouth. First of all, of course, there was this unfortunate cattle class, which everyone overlooks the fact, and which you can find by just going on Twitter, that the person who asked me the question, who was a very pro-BJP journalist called Kanchan Gupta, used the phrase himself. He said, "Mr. Minister, will you travel cattle class?" And I replied using the phrase he had used, wrongly assuming it was in common currency here, because it certainly was where I had just come from. For 30 years, people in the West have been calling economy or coach class cattle class, and it's not meant to demean passengers, but to insult airlines for herding us in like cattle. So in any case, I said, yes, I'll travel in cattle class out of solidarity with all our holy cows. And then, you know, the dung hit the roof in ways which got completely out of control. I mean, a chief minister of my own party, now a friend, I'm pleased to say, called for my resignation for having insulted economy class passengers. It was
in fact, we have a question from Chaiwala who asks, what is the most appropriate definition of economy class in India now? Would you venture?
I think I will refrain from adding any further, contributions to the lexicon. But though I must say that Indian economy class seats, and I've traveled economy class quite often, I might add, not always, I admit, but quite often, are actually much more spacious and roomy than the equivalents in America. In America, they pitch the seats together, really herding you in like cattle. But in India, it's not that bad. Anyway, so first lesson learned that humor doesn't translate very well, because I'm told cattle class sounded awful in Malayalam and Hindi and Gujarati and God knows all the other languages of the politicians who assailed me for it. And to this day, it continues to hurt me. I mean, my staff have overheard conversations in trains about people saying, praising certain things I'd done in the constituency, and then my sort of ally will ask, "Oh, then you're going to vote for him again, right?" And they'll say, "No, how can I vote for him? He thinks I'm cattle." You know, that sort of image has been assiduously spread, I believe, for malicious purposes. Similarly, the whole controversy about using the word interlocutor. It was the right word to use, as was just used to ask you to come up on stage, saying, "You're going to be my interlocutor. You're talking to me, you're my interlocutor." But because Mr. Goswami decided it meant intermediary, we had days of screaming on television against me having sold Indian foreign policy down the river, having betrayed our Pakistan policy to Saudi Arabia, God knows what, with the result that, of course, it cast a shadow over what was otherwise a very successful visit by the Prime Minister to Saudi Arabia. Now, all of these things, I still don't believe they reflect poorly on me, other than on my, perhaps, failure to dumb myself down sufficiently to the level of the individual we've just talked about.